fine. Apparently YouTube's not like Twitch, where Twitch you just hit live on the streaming software, and Twitch knows you want to go live. YouTube, you have to tell YouTube's not like Twitch, where Twitch you just hit live on the streaming software, and Twitch knows you want to go live. YouTube, you have to tell YouTube's not like Twitch, where Twitch you just hit live on the volume's okay, and Twitch knows you want to go live. YouTube, you have to tell YouTube's not like Twitch. Where Twitch you just hopefully echo. I hate this sometimes. Twitch knows you want to go live. YouTube, you have to tell YouTube's not like Twitch. Where Twitch you just hopefully echo. I do. I've got something in the background somewhere. So I still clearly haven't solved. I do. I've got something in the background somewhere. I haven't solved. So I still clearly haven't solved audio monitoring problem. I've got something in the background somewhere. Fuck, where is it? So I still clearly haven't solved audio monitoring problem. I've got something in the background somewhere. Fuck, where is it? So I still clearly haven't solved audio monitoring problem. I've got something in the background somewhere. Fuck, where is it? So I still clearly haven't. Alright, I think I found it. Fucking profesh. Right? Cool. Sounds better. How's everyone going? While I get myself settled again. 2 sets of earphones in, one for monitoring, one for actually listening to things live. Probably not the easiest way to go. All right, so today we're going to be looking at a few different things. So I did this to avoid scripting, and ironically enough, it's not scripting, but I've actually done a fucking reference document for what we're going to go through. Basically, we're going to look at some toxic masculinity stuff with Isaac Butterfield. Isaac Butterfield. That'll make more sense when we see the video. And that should be a treat, particularly for people who aren't from Australia. Isaac Butterfield's a comedian in Australia, and he's a real bloke. And yeah, it's interesting to see his take on toxic masculinity. It's not going to be a, hey, we're owning him because he's a dumbass. Like a lot of comedians, he seems to swing really rapidly through decent takes and bad takes. His takes on masculinity and its role in society seems to be on the worse side of bad takes. So we're going to look at that. That should be interesting. We're also going to look at some free speech stuff, which that was the hot topic last weekend when I thought about what to do this stream. Now the hot topic seems to be wages and economic equality between different types of jobs, which we might look at in a future video, particularly since I've done some policy as my profession, basically. So that's fairly interesting. Although free speech, that sort of ties into that too. We're going to be looking at that, including some of the ways that goddamn fucking American political divide sort of hits Australia, how it sort of affects us. Not passing the blame, not trying to say it's all your fault, but the president that gets voted in does affect the outcomes that we see in our politics in Australia, which kind of sucks. Well, it sucks when it's a bad president, I suppose. And then to cool off, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at Little Light Studios. So if you caught my live stream that I did sort of off the cuff last weekend, or any of the, I think so far 2 videos are out of the just clips, because I know a 2-hour stream is a bit much to get through for some people. We're going to actually have a look at the background to their business model. Nothing too crazy. It's more to just sort of laugh at them because it's a little bit silly and a little bit ridiculous. Even if you're a Christian, I think that their way of operating their ministry and the way they look at media that isn't exclusively Christian in nature is a little bit funny. So we'll look at that as well. So that way, after we have that really heated debate when I say shit about free speech that no one agrees with, we can then go back to just laughing at people being a little bit silly. So that's the plan for today. Now, I just need to double check, because I don't have any faith in my ability to stream effectively. No, it should be fine. Should be fine. All right, cool. So let's get started with our Mr. Butterfield stuff. Now, I did forget to do this in the other one. I'm going to do it now. My current stats, about 80% of people who watch don't actually subscribe. So if you do enjoy this, please consider subscribing. It would be fantastic. I'm getting close to 200, which is great. But the real goal is 1,000 because I'd like to get access to all those community tools just so I can post on YouTube instead of shit posting on Twitter all the time. That'd be fantastic. But I'm going to full screen that. Look at this production. Fucking production. Be better production if I didn't have to click my keys all the time to get stuff. So anyway, let's have a look at Mr. Butterfield and his take on toxic masculinity. Actually, that's not the one we want. We want that one. So I'm here. Hello. All right, Mr. Butterfield, tell me what it means to be a man. After I just pop this out one more time. Wait, no. Yeah, that'll do. All right, come on, Butterfield, let's go.
And by now I'm sure you've heard all about toxic masculinity. The idea that being a man or being masculine is inherently bad or toxic.
Whoa, okay, so here's where we get really quickly into some of the problems we're going to see future in the video going ahead. Now, it's a short video. Luckily, it's not like that 2-hour video that I looked at last time. But in just a few short minutes, Mr. Butterfield is going to double down on this idea that the idea or the criticism of toxic masculinity is inherently a criticism of masculinity, and I don't think that's actually an accurate or a fair representation of toxic masculinity or how it's presented or how men are being critiqued. But we'll let him get into it a little bit more, and we'll start to take that apart.
Children are being taught that in no uncertain terms that being a male, being a boy, is some type of evil gender. And that is hurting people. That is hurting young men. And this is what this particular video is all about.
So there are cases where men, boys, people that do value masculinity are hurt by the way others perceive masculinity, and that's a fair problem. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no problem for men or for boys when it comes to addressing their gender or how they want to express themselves in society. The problem isn't that they want to express themselves in a certain way. I think the problem is going to come out that the problem is actually with how society expects them to interact with society and interact with their own masculinity and what that actually means. The start of this video is immediately conflating the two, which I think is what creates this problem where reactionaries often pick up this idea of toxic masculinity. They ascribe it to being a issue with men inherently, as opposed to looking at the problems that men face alongside with everyone else in society. And anyway, we're going to have to skip it out, I think.
Believe it or not, men are 5 times more likely to die of suicide than women. In the modern era...
So I'm going to link a video, and I'll refer to a video a little bit later because I've watched half of this video just to make sure it was stream appropriate. And there's a really good video from a video SES. A lot of you probably have heard of him, H-Bomber Guy. I only discovered him in the last sort of 6 months, and he has a fantastic video response to this idea of masculinity and what it means to be a man and the problems that they face. For example, this idea that men are 5 times more likely to commit suicide. Well, we actually are just more likely to succeed. So the rate of attempted suicides between male and female genders, I say that because I'm not sure how the studies identify, gender fluidity or other things of that nature. Like, we just assume that they are looking at a binary because that's sort of the default for a long time. The women attempt it almost as much as men, and they just aren't successful enough. And there's some ideas that we can unpack from that on why that might be. For example, women might feel they've got better support networks, so when they attempt suicide, it is something that is a little bit more a cry for help because they feel that they've got places that they can go to for help, whereas men, they feel a bit more isolated because of the idea that men have to be stoic, which is an idea that Isaac will support later on, and strong masculine emulations of sort of leadership, and so that they are less likely to go looking for help. And so the issue isn't that men are sadly, committing suicide at a higher rate than women, it's that men are less likely to ask for help, whereas the problems at the base level are potentially the same.
Here, women are much more educated than men. More men are homeless, more men are in prison, more men are the victims of violent crime. Fathers are less likely to get custody of their children over mothers, and the list goes on. Now,
so a lot of that we've just gone through, a lot of that can be sort of pretty quickly assigned to or linked with toxic ideas of masculinity. So, for example, men being more likely to be in a victim of a violent crime is because they're probably more likely to actually be involved in a violent crime in the first place. Like they're often participants in that crime, and they might be the people that are the victim defending themselves, but that's because that's how it's set up in society. Men are meant to be more physically imposing. Yes, physically on the whole, we might be bigger on average than people that are, assigned female at birth, but like that's a problem with that is toxic masculinity. Fathers being less likely to get custody of their children. The issue with that is because men are not seen as nurturers, they're not seen as caregivers, because that's not the part in society that we are assigned to play. So that's a problem. That is toxic masculinity. And this is where I think this starts to stumble, in that when the critique of toxic masculinity is brought to some people, such as Isaac Butterfield here, they look at redefining the problem so it's not inherently a problem that men have to deal with. Instead, it's a problem that's being imposed upon them by others, and it's unfair. Where I think the better response to this type of critique, particularly of men, is to accept the critique as something that we all deal with together. So the inverse to the fact that men are more likely to not get custody of their children and women are more likely to get custody of their children is that men have an easier time in ensuring that they have a stable career throughout their lifetime, despite any interruptions through having children, whereas women are much more likely to suffer. Suffer is the wrong word, but women are more likely to have to put their careers on pause and to lose lifetime earnings in terms of relative advancement in their career, because they stop and stay and they're the caregivers and they look after the kids. So a lot of these problems, they balance themselves out when you look at it versus what impacts are happening across society and not just focused on men, and why do other people outside of those who identify as men feel that has a toxic influence on their lives.
I recently made a video just a couple of weeks ago about the problems with modern femininity, and it is only fair that I follow suit and do it all about the other gender. So, ladies and gentlemen, here are the problems with modern masculinity.
Look at this.
But first, this video is brought to you by Surfshark V. I think video blocking is on Net Country. Shark gives access. Ladies and gentlemen, for free. Ladies and gentlemen, back to the big problems that we face with modern masculinity. Problem number one: modern men are weak.
Yes, I actually saw this on Twitter, unironically today. I forget what it's called, but it's the strong men make good times make weak men make bad times. It's bullshit.
Regression of masculinity has only intensified over the past few years, and it is with fear, vitriol.
So this was done in 2020. I think this video is 3 months old. I think at this point it should have been pretty obvious that it's not good times. Like, people are struggling, and arguably people are becoming more resilient to difficult things such as the pandemic, and economic instability, because people aren't getting support in a lot of places. So I don't know about this. I think this might be anecdotal assumptions, just because it fits his point of view.
Anger aimed towards men, it's no wonder that they are regressing, particularly when it comes to universities and college campuses. Universities
and college campuses, the fucking gender studies meme. So for starters, anger directed towards men, it might be relevant. It might be anger that is, correctly placed. And I think the test of whether someone is strong in their gender expression is whether or not they can actually respond to anger in a way that is beneficial and constructive rather than destructive, which I think we're going to get into some destructive responses.
Worldwide, young men with malleable minds being told by lecturers that being a man is a bad thing.
Bullshit. Okay, I have been to uni multiple times. I know, weird flex, right? I went to uni in 2001 and 2002 don't count because that was Bible college. 2003 and 4, I did a education degree. I didn't finish it. Long story, anyway. And then in 2013 through to 2015, I did a business degree with communications. And 2016, I did my postgrad in policy. Not once was I told being a man was bad. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't some professors out there that are in the minority that might be teaching some controversial points on masculinity, but I presume that the vast majority are going to be reactionary misinterpretations of what's being taught by the lecturer. Now, whether that's a lecturer's fault or the student's fault, university, there's a certain amount of personal responsibility that goes into learning, but at the same time, the professor, I suppose, should be fairly engaged in making sure their message is correctly heard. But holy shit, I very much doubt that men are being taught that they're just bad, and if they were, they're more likely to be taught in classes designed for people that are explicitly interested in gender studies. Not to invoke the meme of the gender studies university student. Like, what a bullshit. Come on, like, fuck me. I want to see video proof. I want to see fucking way more than just like a quick fucking picture to prove that point.
That they should be ashamed of what they cannot control. They are...
I don't think anyone wants men to be ashamed of what they cannot control. I think they want men to be ashamed of what they can control but choose not to. The way they talk about other genders, particularly women, when we're talking about cis het men, the way that they talk to each other, the way that they compete. And this is a problem, right? Like, I can sort of hear it in myself that, you know, someone could take this clip and very quickly go, well, look, you're just shitting all over men. I'm not talking about the experience of being masculine or expressing as a man as a whole. I'm talking about the parts that are problematic, and they might not be the majority of your day. Like, you may not wake up and go, you know what, I'm going to fucking take it to some arsehole and get aggro and make sure he knows where he is, his place compared to me because I'm a big motherfucker. What I think is the criticism is, you know, how we respond to those points of stress, that point of pressure where we sort of react to a, you know, social interaction in a negative way. And that's where the criticisms are coming. They're not coming with, in a lot of cases, I suppose, how you react day to day. Sure, there are some people that are just operate at a baseline level of sexism and misogyny. But, see, let's over-define the problem so his points sound more relevant, because it's an effective way to convince people, and perhaps I'm engaging in it now, perhaps you engage it with your points of view. And I guess how we deal with this is we really need to get down to the quality and veracity of those arguments. So he's saying it's a complete, absolute denigration of men, that men are evil. I'm saying, well, no, it's a criticism of how men respond in certain circumstances. Usually those circumstances are not a 100% expression of how people live their day-to-day lives. They might be a small part, but they're a very important part with how other people view them. Which one of those is more reasonable?
Are to blame for the things that have happened to women in the past, and only they can stop it. Not men as a whole, that individual male. They're being indoctrinated into the belief that they are...
Well, yes, each individual one of us actually needs to take responsible for our part in a group's activity as a whole. But yeah.
A part of an evil cabal known as the patriarchy.
Who's called it an evil cabal? In a serious way or in a reasonable way?
Of course, all of that is fucking ridiculous, but if you beat a dog to its...
Yes, it's fucking ridiculous, but it's ridiculous because of how it's been framed. not because this is actually a fair representation of the criticism that is invoked when people say toxic masculinity.
Knees for its entire life, it will never stand up. And that's what's happening here. Now, when I say that...
It sounds weird to say beat a dog to its knees, because like when a dog's resting on its knees, it's basically lying down, right?
Becoming weak, I don't mean that being an emotional person or being in touch with one's feelings or even being feminine is akin to being weak. In fact, me, the old Butterfield here, you know what I get up to when I'm not screaming at a camera like a fucking idiot?
All right, here we go. He's going to tell us how in touch with his feelings he is, despite being a bloke. Yeah.
I rescue greyhounds. I enjoy my time with my partner. We look after our families. We do all these beautiful things together. And you know what? That may be seen as feminine. And that's fine.
See, this is such a Fisher-Price, my first gender study like idea. The idea that looking after greyhounds and, you know, being in a supportive, loving relationship with your partner is feminine. Like that's toxic masculinity. The idea that it is inherently feminine to do things that are caring or do things that are thoughtful. That is exactly the type of thinking that makes men feel like they can't express these ideas because they get caught up in worrying about whether or not they're expressing themselves in a way that society is going to find appropriate to their gender, instead of being like, you know what, no, this isn't feminine, this isn't masculine, this is about the experience of just being a person. And it just feeds into this narrative that there are certain universal experiences that people have in the way they interact with themselves and others that are separated into genders, and it creates a issue where people who can't feel like they can express emotions they might be feeling naturally then become frustrated, they become disenfranchised, they become alienated from society that they're in, and negative expressions result from that. You know, you get frustrated, you get angry, you're more likely to react violently to situations because you aren't allowed or you're not expected to react in other ways. I mean, come on, imagine that. Rescuing greyhounds is feminine. Like, fuck.
Fine. Sometimes when I'm in the kitchen cooking dinner and my greyhound Rosie pictured right here, look at that little darling.
Oh, look at her. Greyhounds they always look like they're smiling, don't they? Except for maybe around the racetrack, but when they're rescued and being looked after, they always look like they're smiling.
She comes in and she demands dinner because it's 6:01 and she gets dinner at 6 o'clock, and if she doesn't get it on time, she carries on like a pork chop. You know what I do sometimes? I pick her up by her little feet and she stands up with me because she's quite tall, and we dance.
This is all virtue
We
signaling.
fucking dance, alright? I am 6'8" with a beard. I could grow a clitoris and still be more of a man than half of the fucking incels out there. It's okay.
What incels, I feel like he's either demonstrating a misunderstanding of internet cultures. Like the people that are like saying toxic masculinity is a problem are not incels. Incels are like the polar opposite. They're the people that are saying that men aren't allowed to be men anymore because women are being empowered to have autonomy over the choices they make in life. Like that kind of speaks maybe to the level of engagement he has had with these ideas. The fact that he mixes up his metaphor, so to speak.
It's okay to be in touch with your feminine side, gentlemen. It's not being weak. You can talk about your feelings, you can talk about your issues. That's not being weak at all. Being weak is something far more horrible. Women do not like...
So he's close there. Like, I'll give him to that. Like, being in touch with your emotional side is not weakness. 100%. Let's go. Come on. Keep that energy, buddy.
Weak men. And those who do are hairy armpitted fools that don't want to be with a man. They want to own.
Whoa.
Far more horrible. Women do not like weak men. And those who do are hairy armpitted fools that don't want to be with a man. They want to own a man.
What the fuck? So we've gone from, I think, something that I agreed with him on to maybe the worst take he's had all video. Hairy armpitted fools that want to own a man. Like, that's ridiculous. I don't even know how to respond to that. Like, that's... What Nah, all right, come on, expand on that, mate. Justify yourself.
Being a strong, masculine human being doesn't mean you're a horrible piece of shit and mean and rude.
No? You're not going to expand on that?
And you try and staunch people. No. It means you're stoic. It means you...
Stoic. So he's feeding back into it. So he's made this video on the problem of toxic masculinity, or modern masculinity in his video title. And he is doubling down on... To be a man is to be stoic, you know, to be immovable in the face of adversity. That's going back, that's walking back what he said before that I was actually, you know, on board with, and that, you know, expressing your feelings is not feminine. It's something that anyone can do and anyone should do and feel comfortable to do. But now he's going that we need to be stoic. That's contradictory. Come on, mate.
Face adversity head on. It means you look after the ones around you. It means you're a good motherfucker. It means...
Good motherfucker, fine. Look after the ones around you. I get what's intended there. I understand, like, the noble nature of, you know, looking to look after people. But the thing is, often the people around us are adults. They are people that have equal interest in the well-being of the people that they're with. So me and my wife, I'm not here to look after her. She's not here to look after me. We're here to look after each other. Like, it's a collaborative effort to make sure our cat is happy. It's not me looking after her so my cat is happy. Like, it feels like I get some people might look at that and go, well, that's a distinction without a difference. But I think it's really important to acknowledge the agency of others and the shared responsibility we have for well-being in relationships with people, and to put that pressure on the man implicitly. Like, look, I'll 100%. He's not evangelical out here saying that the man is the head of the house, but it is the same Puritan basis for that extreme version of masculinity. That is, the man is here to look after you, or at least that should be a major role in his focus. Is that he is here to protect the people that are around him. You see that a lot in anime as well. The guy's always like, I'm going to protect you. Which, a little bit condescending, a little bit, it just takes away agency from other people, whether they want to or not. And, you know, there might be people out there that do want to be in that type of relationship, and more power to them. But that's about a personal expression of your own identity. I don't think it's worthwhile putting those expectations on gender roles.
And this is how I sort of thought about it when I was writing this
God, we're
video.
taking a while on this. I thought this would be
The way to be the perfect man is be the man you wish your father was.
Nope.
That, I think, is the best way to look at this. Which moves on immediately to my next point. Men are scared. Men are scared of being men. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being a man. Nothing. There is something wrong with being a tyrannical asshole who bullies people and is just a piece of shit in general. But that's not being a man. Anyone who tells you that there's something wrong with being masculine is a fucking liar, and they're full of...
See, he keeps reinforcing this false equivalency with people saying there's something wrong with being a man, and the idea that there are aspects of the social construct of what it means to be a man are toxic. Like, you really need to carefully separate these two ideas so that you can actually have a discussion about them without getting triggered by someone criticizing your current gender construct that's been basically forced on all of us, from quite a long tradition in society on what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman.
Absolute shit, and you should never listen to that person ever again. Weakness stems from fear.
Wait for it.
So many men, young and old,
where he's going to go with this.
Terrified
it's pretty fucking hilarious.
Of being caught doing something wrong. Now, that does sound like something...
Hey. You should abso-fucking-lutely be afraid of being caught doing something wrong to the point where it disincentivizes you from doing something wrong. Just putting that out there.
Quite scary. And, you may think, hang on, if they're going to do something wrong, then they should be called out for it. But what is defined as wrong now is ridiculous, okay? If you talk to a girl at the office, that's sexual harassment.
No, I talked to a girl at the office last time I was in the office. In fact, I talk to a girl in the office almost every day I go into the office. Well, every day I go into the office, I talk to a girl. Multiple girls, in fact. And not one point has it ever been said that I've done something wrong by doing that. Now, if you say, hey, love, nice rack, maybe people are going to take offense to that, and maybe they'd be right to. So, yeah, straw man. Let's
if you
keep
ask
going.
her out, that's sexual harassment.
Well, if you ask them out in a... So workplaces are weird, right? So in a workplace, you don't actually have the ability to separate yourself from people when you're uncomfortable. So using the workplace as a place where you're going to try and romance people, it's tricky. Now, it's not something that's like, it's wrong. It's ethically and morally wrong. It's ethically and morally wrong. Like, yeah, that's obviously unreasonable, but I am pretty confident that you can actually get a sense for the level of interest that someone has in you before you just say, hey, love, you want dinner? Like, your interaction shouldn't start there. So your interaction should probably start with being a little bit more friendly, cordial, get to know them and, start to build up a sense of whether or not they would actually be receptive to that. And I think there's a way to do that without it actually crossing the line into sexual harassment if you establish a, at least a certain amount of rapport so that, when you do ask them out, and if they say no, hey, might be a bit uncomfortable, but they're not going to feel like they're in a position of, particularly if there's a power imbalance, particularly if there's a reporting line. I'm not saying manager and staff, but, maybe you're at a higher, senior position, even though they don't report to you, or you've been there longer, or you know more people, or, there's all these factors that go into that. And just to say, oh, it's bullshit if that's called sexual harassment. You can't ask a lady out anymore. You might be a little bit being reactionary there.
If you look at her, that's sexual harassment. Now, there are sexual harassers out
I mean, if you look at her tits, yeah, that's sexual harassment, but anyway.
there that do horrible pieces of shit and things like, when you wolf whistle at a chick out of your fucking ute when you're a tradie, that poor chick, she just wants to fucking walk.
So what's the material difference between that and, to use your very bare example of asking a girl out without actually qualifying any of the circumstances around that. Like, I might look at that as young men and go, yeah, I should be able to ask a girl out. Like, that's fine. Well, the wolf whistle and the asking someone out when you've just met them, they kind of fill the same role. Like, both might have women that, react positively to that because, hey, that, validates, what they think about themselves or how, they want to be responded to by those around them. But just as much and potentially maybe a little bit more likely, they might feel uncomfortable, they might feel weird, they might feel self-conscious about it. So, I mean, you can identify when it's inappropriate, but yeah, I just don't think you've gone far enough into understanding how wolf whistling exists. Like, wolf whistling is just one of many ways that men solicit for attention from women that is unwanted, or at least isn't qualified with actually responding to, the appropriate circumstances and having an appropriate level of interaction with that person first. It's, yeah.
Even though she's wearing a G-bag, she's fucking walking half the birds out there. My point being, leave.
Holy shit. Victim blaming. Fuck. Okay, maybe this was a little bit worse than I thought. I don't remember that when I pre-watched it.
Alone. It's a tough one. I get it. But that's what this sort of society has created.
Well, it's not tough. It's not tough.
Men are scared to approach women. Men are scared to do anything that puts them out there as a masculine person. Men are scared.
Hey. So I'm a, what are they called? Not an incel, introvert. And I approached my current wife. I say current as if there's going to be another one. I approached my partner to ask her out. It was at her workplace. She was a coffee barista, but it was a result of several months of going and getting coffee there and sharing little jokes. And, I still remember, I think the first general interaction we had that wasn't like, hey, I want a dirty chai latte, was on soy, which is relevant soon. Something about the IT crowd. I think she actually recommended I watch it, and so I did watch it. And she made a joke about putting a head in the oven or something. Yeah. Anyway, it was really cute. But we established a rapport with each other too. When I did actually ask for her number, it was in a time and a place where she had the right to disengage. Spoiler alert: she didn't, and she gave me some lemon meringue pie, which was quite tasty. And yeah, so there are ways to do it. I think it would be different if I just asked every coffee barista, "Hey, can I have your number?" Like that. That's a different interaction. That's a different level of respect for other people's comfort and other people's, I guess, right to walk around in society without being harassed. Because that's harassment. Like just asking for numbers because you're playing the numbers game is harassment. But investing some time into actually interacting with someone as a person, I think that's what opens up the opportunity to then, check how compatible you might be.
To post shit on Instagram that may make them seem like they're part of the patriarchy, and men are scared. They don't want to be labelled as a sexist or a homophobe.
Don't do sexist things. Don't do
They don't want to lose their
things.
jobs.
Don't do transphobic things.
Their living or their family because of it. They don't want to be called out on social media for things that they don't even really believe.
So don't express those beliefs. I don't know what this has got to do with toxic masculinity.
That's where this fear comes from. Men as a gender are walking on the eggshells of society, waiting for a booby trap to jump out in a gotcha moment.
Does he literally mean a booby trap? Like, was that on purpose? Like I said, this guy's a comedian, so surely he knew what he was doing there. He just sounds very serious. It's a very serious point. Funny.
Fear and previously covered weakness is what is leading more and more men to become things known as incels, involuntary celibates, who refuse to have sex because they're scared of women or rejection.
Okay, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about with this stuff. Incels are not choosing to not have sex. The clue is in the title, involuntary celibates. They are unable to have sex, and they believe it is due to genetic deficiencies that they inherit and are unable to control, and things like the appearance of their face, the type of body that they have. It has got nothing to do with fear. Well, the understanding that an incel has of their position is not about fear. It is about things outside of their control. Now that might that might be expressed in fear. It might actually be that they just have a fear of interaction that creates the circumstances that they then interpret as being, hey, it's a genetic deficiency. But incels, it's a whole nother thing.
Which is just insane. If you get to my age of 27 and you haven't been rejected 1,000 times, you're not trying, mate. The thing about fear is, though, it often...
I got to 27. How many times have I been rejected? Not that many. I was a good Christian boy for a long time, though, so... Yeah.
Manifests itself in an outwards fashion. What I mean by that is that can lead to violence. If you push an animal up against a wall, what does it do? It has no choice but to fight back.
All right, so we're now justifying, well, not justifying, but now we're putting the blame of violence on factors that are outside of a man's control. And what was the most coherent example of that he gave? It was an incel. So it's kind of starting to come off as, hey, they didn't get sex, so they're violent, which, I mean, that's entitlement. That's masculine entitlement to women's bodies, which is toxic masculinity. Like, it's the thing that we're talking about, the idea that this leads to that. Like, no. The way we respond to negative interactions in society, whether or not they're fair, is completely on us. I might be in a position in some part of my life where I'm not happy with outcomes or not happy with the circumstances I find myself in, and I could express that as frustration in multiple different ways. Violence is very rarely going to be the correct response to that circumstance, and saying that this is what men are doing in a way that pushes the blame for that choice to be violent onto the circumstances that led to the violence, as opposed to the choice to respond to those circumstances in violence, is completely it's irresponsible. But But hey, that's public
That's
figures
where we
on
see a
YouTube.
lot of these incels shooting up places and all that horrible shit. It's because they're scared.
How did we get to incels from
They're
toxic
scared,
masculinity?
and there's a lot of reasons they're scared. Maybe they had a horrible childhood.
Incels are
or a whole
created
variety
by
of different
toxic
things.
masculinity.
Not just because
They're
masculinity is being attacked. But I bet it's got something to do with it. But more so than the violence, we see men imploding upon themselves, withdrawing to their own minds. They get trapped into this gulag that is their own thoughts.
Gulag.
And they become
5
something
points.
known as Peter Pan. They never grow up. They never change. They
Here we
never
go.
change their thoughts, their ideas, or their
Don't grow up.
ideologies. And they're
not boys. They're not men, they're boys.
That 16-year-old boy who is terrified of the world. And that is a big problem. Which brings me to my final point.
You being a boy there?
Men are fucking that scared that they hide. With weakness and fear infecting men's minds, they withdraw and they see life as too hard. Success is untenable.
Game Boy
Love is fiction. And responsibility is to be avoided at all costs.
Yeah, you're
So
just
they
describing
hide.
incels.
And hiding isn't living at all.
You've already
It
had
leads to
incels.
sadness, weight issues, and worst of all,
Weight issues.
hatred. Men are hiding so much that it has become very much a woman's world. More women are going to university than men. They're getting higher paying jobs. And that's a great thing for women.
So let's think about that. Women are going to university more than men. The higher paying jobs, I strong disbelieve on that claim. Like it depends on how you look at. Fuck that for now. But women are going to university more than men. What other tertiary training exists that might be disproportionately disproportionately have men engage in? Traineeships, electricians, boilermakers, carpenters, painters. Like, in Australia, we've got a blue collar working class that makes a fucking fortune in a lot of places. They're the ones that go out to the mines, they do the fly in, fly out, and they can actually make a fucking killing. So just going and looking at, university attendance is women going to university more than men and going, that's a problem. Well, yeah, it is and it isn't. Maybe more women would go to these other options if they were, felt socially and culturally that it was not something that was going to be used to separate them from, perhaps the gender identity they're comfortable with. But this is real surface level stuff. Like, without actually going in and fact checking every number. And part of the point of this is not to do the fact checking and the video essay style. It's to do this sort of conversational. Hey, when we're presented with ideas, how do we just sort of respond to them on the fly, and to prevent me from having to do research. But look, I guarantee the research does exist out there that toxic masculinity is not about university numbers. It's about social interactions. And so this is kind of a red herring to take us off the trail, because this gets into job representation and the wage gap between men and women, and whether we look at it in each job individually, do men and women get paid, versus do we look at it over the course of a career, what things influence whether women have the experience to get into higher paying jobs, and are women more likely to take part-time jobs because they're considered caregivers, and that creates a wealth gap, and that leads into things like superannuation, or I think in America it's 401k, so they've got less money when they retire, and hopefully they're still with the man that they've been with for quite some time, because he's going to have retirement savings, whether it's superannuation or 401k or whatever it is. It's so much more complicated than this, mate.
But I think, as most people who watch this channel understand, it shouldn't be about gender. Everyone needs an equal go, regardless if you got a cock or it's the other C word, all right? I'm not allowed to say that anymore on YouTube because they're freaking out. My point being, we are all in agreement here. I think most of us here, we believe that everyone should be given a fair go regardless. That's the Australian attitude. Give everyone a fair go. And this needs to be played up for men more. I don't want to seem like a men's rights activist, because I'm not. I'm just being logical here. Because men right now are being socially castrated.
Fuck.
Their ability to be masculine has been removed. And that is being done by social media and universities and the people around.
Universities. Fuck, he hates universities.
It's a scary thing. It's a scary time to be a dude in many respects. Mainly because if you are beaten to your knees and kept there, then you, as a young man or as an old man, are not ready for the turmoil that life will throw at you, and it will throw it at you. That is fucking worrying. That's why we see these suicide rates that are through the roof for men, and they're only going to increase. So, what do we do? We've identified all these issues for men.
I'm going to let him finish. I'm going to let him get to his final point, and we'll take apart some of that stuff that he's talked about.
Let me give you a couple of fucking answers for what you can do immediately.
Oh,
Number one, sort your fucking body out. If you're overweight, do something about it. Work out how many calories you need to eat a day. Go to a calorie calculator and then work out...
Just get ripped. Oh.
about what 20% less of that is, and then aim for that amount. Download MyFitnessPal. Track your calories and go to the gym. All right? 5 days a week. 1 day push, 1 day pull, 1 day legs, rest, then repeat. If you don't know what I'm fucking talking about, Google it, work it out.
Sorry, that's pretty entitled. Like, I know particularly when I was in retail and stuff, there's no fucking way I had time to go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm not shitting on, living a healthy lifestyle or anything. There are really good reasons to do that. And being a good man is not a good reason to be in shape. That's just being, I don't think women are less likely to want to get in shape than men because it's healthy.
Lose some weight, look after your body, all right?
Some
That's
weight,
the first
buddy.
step. Step 2, education. Educate yourself. Read Orwell.
But
read
unis are
Peterson,
bad.
Read philosophy. Get some information in that fucking skull, yeah? Listen to podcasts. Listen to other people and be able to change your thoughts on things when you obtain new information. That is so important. And number 3...
So I actually think it's really irresponsible to say educate yourself and to not qualify how to find good quality educational sources. So the thing that's sticking in my mind, and this is, maybe this is spurious, but based on the other things he's said, it's sort of echo, like I can hear in my ear, Jordan Peterson, improve yourself before you can improve society. How can you change society if you can't change yourself? And like other reactionaries like that, and like this video could potentially just be a fucking pipeline. Like that literally concerns me, and like fuck. So get fit, fatty, and educate yourself, but not through not through formal education, by reading books and podcasts and shit. There are great podcasts out there, don't get me wrong, but still.
Ego. Fuck your ego off. Change the person who you want to be. Don't walk around, don't staunch motherfuckers. You don't need to be a big tough motherfucker anymore. You don't.
But I've got to go to the gym for 5
days. Enjoy being around people. If you see someone you don't know, give them a head nod. Say, "G'day, mate." Something like that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think if men take these things on board and then finally they change, then the problems with modern masculinity will go by the wayside. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you thought about this.
All right, I'm letting you know what I thought right now. So those 3 points, I don't think any of that actually deals with toxic masculinity at all. I think the solution to toxic masculinity is actually feminism. It is recognizing that we as a culture, as a society, all actually have a part to play in terms of social outcomes for everyone. So when we talk about toxic masculinity, almost every single one of those points could be placed on a balancing graph against things that are negatively affecting other people in society, other genders, other types of expression. So when we look at things like, yes, men not getting the custody of their children at the same rate that women get them, well, women aren't getting all the opportunities in the job market because they're considered caregivers. Like those two things actually balance each other out in terms of, hey, both people want to improve that statistic to find some level of equality. So men want to be seen as caregivers more. Women want to be seen as, having a place in the workforce more. If we balance it out, hey, look, feminism just solved that problem for men. If we want to look at things like, hell, the same seesaw fixes the problem with men feeling like they've got more pressure for success, more pressure to provide, and that can potentially lead to lower levels of mental health. That leads into problems like suicidality. Again, if we stop having this pressure for men to be the protectors of their family unit, maybe they won't feel that same level of anxiety, or maybe they'll feel more likely that they will go out and ask for help, and they'll get some better outcomes there. Like, none of this operates in a vacuum. You can't fix toxic masculinity without addressing the fact that it is a direct result of how we treat other genders in the way we choose to express our gender at the moment. We need to change that. And I think the response is not to go, hey, I'm going to be a men's rights activist. I know he said he's not, but I mean, these are all MRA talking points. But we solve these problems through feminism. We don't solve these problems through separating these, like our experience from the experience of women. Yeah, that's that video. Hey! The funny thing is, when I went through this to actually look for it all and stuff, how long have I actually been streaming for? Shit, I haven't kept track. God, that was an hour on that fucking video. Or maybe it's probably closer to 40 minutes. But yeah, when I went through that, he's actually got quite a few videos with varying labels on, you know, masculinity and the issues with, you know, the way men aren't being men anymore. And I just quickly, we won't go through this whole video, but fuck, this is funny. Like, this video, I was like, oh, maybe he's just, you know, maybe he's just on the wrong side of being, you know, woke about this issue. But fuck, if this video doesn't sort of,
ladies and gentlemen, there's an enormous amount of men that are growing up today that are just huge bloody pussies, all right?
Yeah, they go to the gym and are fatty.
Soy boys.
Soy boys.
That's just bloody sad, all right? We need to do a deep dive and find out why these soy boys exist and what we are gonna do about it. But before we...
spoiler alert, it's not a deep dive. It's a fucking jumping in the shallow end of the kiddie pool. Because soy boys... Jesus, it's just a fucking racist.
You may be sitting there thinking, I don't have soy in high amounts. The thing is, soy is in fucking everything. It's an added...
Well, just in case you thought it wasn't going to be a racist take, like literally calling out the cultures that have high levels of soy. The inference being that therefore the men in like Asian countries are not going to be masculine, because he's establishing this entire fucking argument that soy feminizes people.
It's a thickener. It's a, I don't know, it adds something to something, right? It's in all these different nutrition labels.
Like, stop right there. Video's over. I think I put my hand right in front of the camera, sorry. Fuck. I love the soy boy defense. Like, I fucking...
So you go and have a look.
Amazing.
So what does this mean? It fucks with your estrogen levels. Now, whether you're a man or a woman, you don't want to have too high estrogen, particularly if you're a man. It just fucks with you in a whole lot of ways. It can lead to...
So this is not a chart of what high estrogen due to soy consumption creates. This is just high estrogen in men. Like,
depression, anxiety, it can lead to man boobs, it can lead to weight gain. But soy isn't the only thing causing soy boys, because soy boys are also made from just being little bitches, alright? And the kings, well, maybe not kings, and the absolute world leaders when it comes to being soy boys is the Try Guys from BuzzFeed. Let me introduce you to...
I didn't actually watch that part of the video. Fuck me. Alright, I'm not going to go through this video because it is patently fucking ridiculous. I wonder if my recommendations are going to out me for anything. I will say that for anyone interested in...
Hey there,
like,
you might have noticed...
...of like actually responding to the science of the soy boy critique and stuff, this video from H Bomber Guy is fucking... It is on point. Like, he actually does studies. He actually cites a bunch of research. Oh, I probably should have time marked it, but yeah, I'll link it in the description. It's a fantastic video. He does really good video essays. I really enjoyed them. They sort of helped me over the last sort of 6 months change my views on some things. Not change, but change. We'll go with change. So it's been really cool. So that's toxic masculinity for today. Like, it took an hour to get through it. It's a bit of a long one. So what I will do is I'll clarify that the testosterone count in the Try Guys for that BuzzFeed article were actually normal, and they were misrepresented. I forget how they misrepresented, but it's all in that video. So Based. Hey, Zara. Haven't responded to chat much because I'm trying to get through some stuff. And I'm just shit at this. It's my second live stream, but first one where I'm trying to do a format. So cool. So let's talk about some free speech stuff. So free speech was a hot topic a week ago, so I'm a bit late. But we're going to talk about it today because it affects me in Australia and it's relevant to people in America, and it's just it's kind of an interesting conversation, partly because I think the conversation in broad terms isn't happening in a way that is super productive, and I'm sort of saying both sides I think are getting a little bit lost in that. So first I will say, if you like this video, please subscribe. Sorry for those of you in the chat. I'm saying that again because I'm going to clip these videos, and now I've got a call to action in the clip that this video is going to be. Professional YouTuber. So the interesting thing for us in Australia is that that is not the video. Sorry. Open. Thank you. So there's a saying for places like Britain and Australia, places that culturally are Western countries that follow the US because of the media, movies, TV shows, all that sort of stuff, that we're about 10 years behind the culture in America. So what we see in America today, we'll see in Australia in 10 years. Now, it's wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's not a rule that we can actually use to predict where our culture will move. But what it's saying is that we actually take cues from America being such a large we take cues from America being such an influential country, and they get imported here, and holy shit, is it fucking frustrating. So obviously the big story and the thing that a lot of our news was focusing on over the last week was the bannings of Donald Trump and other conservative far-right voices, Nazi voices, white supremacists, usual stuff, getting banned from social media platforms. Now, we have, just like in America, we've got politicians who have endorsed Trump. They've said Trump's great. They've been, in favor of his policies, even to the point where we actually have politicians who have made claims that, yes, the election is, there are questions around the validity of the American election. People in federal positions, but we're going to quickly watch this news article. So this was a reasonably big piece of news in Australia this week, where there was a federal MP that, anyway, I'll let it speak for
Facts
itself.
can be murky, according to the acting Prime Minister.
You might look out there and say the sky is blue, and I can see from here that it's grey, but if we go out from under this rotunda, there are probably blue patches. I mean, there are a lot of subjective things.
Michael
Okay, first let's address this little example of what is truth, and using the fucking colour of the sky as an example of how truth can be subjective. Now, don't get into all that shit about colours being subjective. I mean, a colour is simply a wavelength expression of light. Like, that, it is objective what it is. Like, if someone says the sky's blue and he says, well, it looks grey to me, when you then look at the sky, when you actually investigate it and go, well, it's grey with blue patches, you're both fucking wrong. One of you is more wrong than the other, and one of you is more correct than the other. And using that as this is a lead-in for justifying people providing their opinions by giving something that's literally not an opinion. That's a verifiable claim that could be fact-checked and then corrected if found to be incorrect.
Cormac has dismissed calls to force the removal of information contradicting official COVID-19 advice from the social media accounts of two of his colleagues, including a Facebook post from Liberal MP Craig Kelly claiming that forcing children to wear masks amounts to abuse.
Do you agree with that statement?
No, I don't.
And do you believe that he should take that Facebook post down?
No, it's a matter for Craig Kelly. Again, it's censorship. I'm not in favour of censorship.
Mr Kelly's...
So this is the Deputy Prime Minister. This guy is actually filling in while our actual Prime Minister is off on fucking holiday. Fine, people have holidays, whatever. Now, our government is a conservative government. I'll be that very clear. We have in power what would... look, if I say they map to Republicans, I know people are going to fucking roast me in the comments because they're not that right, that far right. Like they're not as engaged with fundamental Christianity, although our Prime Minister is a fundamental evangelical Christian. Like they don't get as involved in things like the abortion debate and all that sort of stuff. But the fucking Deputy Prime Minister, who's acting Prime Minister for the week, is not willing to look at one of his colleagues posting factually incorrect information, scaremongering about the effect masks have on children, and call that out because he's worried about free speech. Free speech is not freedom of consequences. That's a meme, and I kind of hate that as just like that being the response, because it doesn't address the fact that free speech also gets dictated to by, you know, what is the outcome or what is the intent behind that free speech. So there might not be a consequence to some speech, but that speech might be shitty speech, and we might go, well, it can fuck off. You can say that in your dining room, but I don't want to hear that in my fucking out the front of my house being yelled by a bunch of people. Like to me, I think free speech is too protected by culture. Not legally, like we're not talking about laws. The laws for free speech are complicated and well beyond my pay grade. But what we allow to happen in our community square, whether that's on fucking Facebook, whether that's in the fucking town square, whether that's on Twitter, I think it's perfectly valid for those areas to be controlled by the consensus of the communities that use them on what is considered to be desirable speech and undesirable speech. This Muppet here, let's let him talk.
Standing by his comments, and the Health Minister opted not to directly criticise him either.
I would urge everyone to listen carefully to the advice of the Australian medical regulators and Australian government medical advisors.
I don't care if Craig Kelly's got...
So that's our federal health minister who is saying, hey, you should wear masks, not willing to call out, for fear of impinging upon free speech, someone spreading absolutely horrendous views on masks. And now this guy, we're going to have a look at some of his other shit on his Facebook, but fuck it. The fact that this minister doesn't get called out for his Facebook page posts and held accountable for it, I guarantee you in my job, if I posted something that was counter to my employer's goals and, you know, what they put out as being values, I would be fucking gone in a heartbeat. And rightly so, because I represent, you know, when I represent my employment, when that is associated with me, which, you know, it's not on YouTube and it's not on Twitter, it's, you know, my opinions are my own, literally. But when you are literally posting as a federal MP under an MP Facebook page, and you are not held to account for that, and the justification is free speech, it is fucking ridiculous.
got one follower or 1,000 followers or 100,000 followers. When
So
he
this is the
engages
opposing
in
power.
dangerous disinformation,
Opposing party. So
he
this is
should
like
be
the
called out.
Democrats.
Labor has also condemned Mr McCormack for comparing last week's riots at the US Capitol to the Black Lives Matter movement, but he's refusing to back down, instead going further.
There are a lot of people out there who are being a bit bleeding hard
Fucking
about
wait
this
for
and
it.
who are
Fucking wait
confecting
for it.
outrage. But they should know.
Bleeding heart. Imagine the leader of your country. Now, Americans, you don't need to imagine. You've had Donald Trump for 4 years. But just imagine the leader of a country suggesting that the plight of Indigenous people in Australia, the plight of black people in America, you know, the plight of basically any Indigenous people in colonized countries as being a bleeding heart issue. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is absolutely unacceptable speech. It gets worse.
Know that those lives matter too. All lives matter.
All lives matter. What the fuck do people think Black Lives Matter means? Like, I can't help but believe, right, a political position like that is of such it's such an important position, right, that there's no way they aren't fucking briefed on exactly what the Black Lives Matter movement means. Now, in Australia, we have issues with our Indigenous people. Now, on my channel, you can actually go back and look at when I actually went to the BLM march here, I think it was in June in 2020, and participated in that, and I recorded and, gave my thoughts on the matter. And the problem is that a lot of people in Australia were dismissive of it because it started in America, because that was the spark for the powder keg that sort of set off that all around the world. But that wasn't because there wasn't issues in Australia that hadn't been problems for decades, well, ever since colonialism in Australia. Like, we have issues with justice and Indigenous people that are not in the same expression as America. So in Australia, I think the biggest issue is not necessarily the police, although the police can have very negative ways of interacting with our Indigenous people, but the justice system actually causes a lot of really negative outcomes for them. And so when BLM became a social cause that sort of went around the world, it resonated really strongly with a lot of people here in Australia, with deaths in custody being vastly more likely for Indigenous people than for anyone else that enters our justice system, and things like recidivism. We have what's called the gap in Australia, which refers to the gap between outcomes between Indigenous people and basically everyone else in Australia. They die earlier, they get less jobs, they earn less, they're less likely to have access to basic necessities like running water, electricity, and internet. It is horrible, absolutely horrible what the state is in terms of how we, as Australians as a whole, look after the Indigenous Australians that have been here for such a ridiculously large amount of time that it's just embarrassing. And to have this type of speech being used as examples of free speech, I don't care if these people say all lives matter. What I care about is when they are platformed by the political power of being federal members of parliament. Like, a federal member of parliament, that shit needs to be called out. People need to absolutely fucking need to vote these people out. I feel like I'm just ranting and I'm not making any salient points, but fuck it makes me so angry that there's such little care given to the problems of Australians. Let's let this play out a little bit longer while I sort of collect myself.
Human rights groups are demanding an apology from Mr McCormack, arguing his comments diminish the aim of the Black Lives Matter protests in the US and here in Australia to draw attention to racial injustice.
I would almost say that it's, apart from being offensive, it shows insensitivity or the lack of empathy about understanding your own country and its people, particularly its Aboriginal people.
Michael McCormack has behaved abominably. His statements are disgusting. He should show more leadership.
He's in the role of leader until Scott Morrison returns next week. Jade McMillan, ABC News, Canberra.
All right, so let's use that as a jumping off board. So I'll sort of label this as a free speech section. And I guess, where's my thingamabob? Since we're not going through. And I guess what my concern is that people are going, hey, people need to be able to say that stuff, and they need to be able to say it publicly, and they need to be able to say it in a way that is effective for us to protect free speech. And I reject the last two things. To me, free speech is the right to be able to say whatever you want to say, and that you can't get locked up for it. The government cannot target you and put sanctions against you, whether it's to take away your freedom or to take away, make financial, make it into a fine and stuff. I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is the extension of that protection to be, you should not face censure from your employer, which in this case, will pretend that the acting Prime Minister is, I know it's not technically the employer of the MP, but, as the leader of the party, he should be in a position where he feels like, you know what, you're spreading things that are factually incorrect. This is when we're talking about the children wearing masks stuff. When the acting Prime Minister is the one that's saying all lives matter, really the only thing that can respond to that is the people. People need to decide, I guess, that speech doesn't belong in leadership and vote for a different party. But unfortunately, we have a media in Australia which provides great amounts of freedom for people to spread misinformation and to spread biases in terms of presenting things like Black Lives Matter, climate change, social issues broadly. People in America might think that Murdoch media is bad, but when you come into Australia and understand that, the media that's not owned by Murdoch is generally owned by a different type of right-wing conservative media group. There's two major groups. When it comes to newspapers, where I'm from, I literally cannot go and buy a newspaper that is not owned by Rupert Murdoch. And free speech in that way is actually under more danger than to not say to your fucking MPs, hey, take that shit down. That literally contradicts the health advice we are putting out. How does that how do we get here? How do we get to a point where people are so fucking sensitive over being told to sit down and fucking keep it to themselves that they feel they've got the right to my time, they've got the right to the community's time, and to not then allow the same level of right for speech to be effective to other people? Like it's I'm not making sense, I'm just ranting. Fail. So in short, let's wrap this back around to, banning on social media. Good. I'm glad Trump got banned from Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And yes, Instagram is Facebook, Instagram. Spotify, I think I saw Spotify as well. Like this type of all lives matter, dog whistling, white supremacy, ultra nationalism, like this type of rhetoric doesn't belong on social platforms, on in the town square. Like we wouldn't expect someone to be sitting in there going, chanting, white nationalist slogans in the middle of our CBDs without them being removed. So why not remove them from our public social online spaces as well? Now, the counter argument that I'm seeing to that, which, it's true, is that people will counter with, well, they're a private company, so they've got every right to remove them. Now, I don't think that's... I get that in a lot of cases that is the response to capitalist conservatives going, haha, see, capitalist pigs, you got exactly what you wanted. Capitalism has allowed these companies to grow to the point where they are monolithic and basically there's no competition for them. And now that they're making decisions that you think are private businesses should be allowed to make that you don't like, you're now calling out saying, hey, it's my free speech. Well, it's not the free speech. It's capitalism being capitalism. Hey, who could have seen this coming? Me. Yeah, sure. The issue I think I have with just going, hey, it's private business doing private business is sometimes it seems like an implicit endorsement of the private business, which I'm still growing in this, but I'm not fully on board with justifying it with, hey, a private business has a right to do anything they want, because I also don't believe that a private business should be able to deny services to people based on protected aspects of their identity, such as race, gender, sexual orientation, any of that. So it's hard for me to go, well, I think, honestly, like if you run a bakery that's open to the public, you should serve the public. I actually think that should be a requirement of operating a business in a community, is that you serve the entire community without exception, at least when it comes to protected classes. So to then say to conservatives, hey, yes, you got banned because it's a public place. It's a private business, and they are just making a private business decision. That kind of conflicts with how I think that a business should operate in a community. What I do think is they should have been banned, not because a private business can do what a private business can do, but they should have been banned because what they were promoting was violence, hatred, division. There were things that are not in service of moving society forward, and that's fine. I think that's a perfectly valid reason to ban people, whether it's a private business, a public business. Like, I think a government, if they had a platform, they should be able to remove hate speech from that platform. So the fact that it's a private business doesn't really have a big bearing on me. So that's all I really wanted to say about that, I guess. That was the thing that was sort of bothering me. It doesn't fit into a tweet, so ban them. But let's be open with why they're being banned. They're being banned because their fucking ideas are destructive. Whereas other... Anyway, I'm that thing. I think it's time to move to our last thing for today. All right. So free speech. I don't know if I got my point across clearly with that one, but that's all right. That fucking MP from Australia, like seriously, fucking hell. And people vote Liberal in Australia. Like it blows my fucking mind. I'll just make one last point. The MP that's posting that shit about masks being harmful to children, like if you go to his Facebook page, Craig Kelly MP, if God forbid you're that bored, like he actually states that, you know, he's citing papers, and a lot of the papers he cites, I looked at a few of them, what are they called? They're net first papers or something, which basically means he's citing research that hasn't been peer reviewed. It hasn't actually been vetted. It's just been posted by people. Now, those people might legitimately have qualifications, but they haven't gone through the peer review process, which kind of invalidates their study as being a point of truth. But it says that, you know, giving children masks is going to make them fearful and anxious because it's, you know, telling them to be scared, be scared. When I was a kid, helmets weren't mandatory in Australia. Didn't have to wear a bike helmet when you're riding a bike, I should say. And I remember falling off a bike and splitting my head open, and I had to get a couple of staples in there. And that was around the time, well, after that, my grandma went and bought me a helmet. They're called stack hats in Australia, big yellow, ugly fucking things. But shortly after that, helmets became a legal requirement to ride a bicycle. And I never grew up thinking, oh shit, I'm terrified that I've got anxiety over riding my bicycle because I had to wear a helmet. Like a mask is a safety device. Like you can teach a child to wear safety devices. Like they don't get scared every time they get in the car because you're strapping them into a fucking baby chair, or, you know, when they get older into like just a normal seatbelt. Like kids are fucking resilient. Like they just normalize this shit and get on with their lives. But spreading this stuff is telling people not to wear masks. Australia's done really fucking well with our response to the pandemic, and to have someone at the federal level not being censored in the name of free speech is horrific. And yet people will vote for him. He operates in a seat in Sydney. So it's not like he's in a fucking hick town out in the boonies. He is in a capital city holding a seat and has held that seat for 10 years. He has been in that seat since 2010. And I think his last election, he got 52% of the vote or 51% of the vote. And the next candidate only got 30-something%. So he's got a wide fucking margin of people that see this shit and think, yep, I'll vote for him. That's scary. That is fucking scary. Okay. All right, we'll wind down with the last one. So if you saw any of the highlights from our last stream, you'll know that the stream that I started, this whole, hey, let's try live streaming content thing, I started by looking at Little Light Studios and their dark secrets of anime exposed. It was ridiculous. It was fun. It was taken down after I reacted to it because they don't keep their shit up. And I will say, if you do like the content, again, please subscribe. Would mean a lot to me. I'm almost at 200 subscribers. Again, this is not for the chat. This is for the video that this inevitably gets clipped into. I hopefully not hassling you guys too much with it. But yeah, Little Light Studios. So after doing that video, I how did I get to it? Something must have clicked on me. I think so. Mr. Bear Atheist, that's right. He did a video on, like, they've got a fairly old video where they look at Nintendo and like the evil of a lot of Nintendo stuff, which is really good, worth a watch. They go into like gambling and stuff and how Nintendo censors religion and stuff. Links in that I think the links are in my clips as well. But so that got me looking at it, and when I originally looked at it, the Dark Secrets of Anime documentary was coming soon. And I think I forgot about it for a while, and I can't remember why I checked last weekend. I think I did think, hey, I should do a video maybe. And I went to the channel to check, and lo and behold, it was live. Like that, it was released. Happy days, let's go, let's do a live stream. When the video was up, and when I went to, I think it was when I went to do a clip, I went to update the source. So I'd link the source in the description so people could see the whole thing, whatever. Like, don't feel too bad about platforming a channel with 100k subscribers when I've only got a small channel. That's fine. But I couldn't find the video to link. And I thought at the time that, hey, when I was going through and when I was actually reacting to it, I was conscious that how much footage was just played without any critique or without any pauses. Usually you want to pause every sort of 8 to 10 seconds when you're posting particularly direct media like TV shows and anime, to avoid copyright strikes. And I just assumed that, hey, they got hit by the copyright bot and they took it down because they didn't want to lose money and maybe they're going to put it back up. Nope. So Little Light Media don't work that way. Little Light Media, they have a few major documentaries that they put out, and they only put them out for a limited period of time. So their business model, let's jump on their website. Their business model appears to be, which I think it's this one. So their business model appears to be, hey, we are going to put out a documentary on YouTube. We're going to do it for a couple of days, and we're going to private it again. And the reason they private it is because they have a shop. This is a short segment, so this is just for my own fucking amusement. So unfortunately, I can't rewatch Dark Secrets of Anime Exposed, and my audience can't go and double check that I haven't just taken them out of context, which is horrible. So when I found that out, because I did some digging on their social media, so their Twitter basically doesn't exist. I think their last tweet was like quite some time ago, and Facebook didn't have a lot on it, but I did find a post on Facebook where they listed, I think it was when they had a Disney expose that they released, and it was, hey, this comes out on this date for 24 hours, and for every 10,000 views we get, we'll keep it up for another 24 hours. So I feel like they're trying to drum up engagement, particularly early when a video gets released, to try and help the algorithm. Although I don't know how making the video private afterwards helps and stuff. Who knows? Who the fuck knows? Anyway, I'm going to take the face cam off because I've got to get real close to the screen to read. Let's look at the shop, because fuck. Come on, internet load. Thank you. So when I opened the shop, it's like, oh, look, merch stickers. Hold on, what's this? Fuck. They're selling fucking apple cider vinegar health tonic. Something to cure fucking whatever. Like, it was really difficult to sort of recalibrate what my understanding of this business was when I saw this. Where are we? To me, that seems like a big call. Now, does apple cider vinegar actually do this? Maybe I should have checked, but I doubt it. And if it does, yeah, hey, great. But still, I'm almost positive that this is not a thing that happens. Hang on, let's do that. I mean, we all love chili peppers, right? So habaneros and white onion, like this, and horseradish, respiratory system. Fuck. What is this tonic used for? Here we go. A cold, flu, or sniffle. So I'm pretty sure that the flu doesn't have but you can't treat the flu. You can only treat the symptoms. Isn't that right? Or am I thinking of something else? Anyway, it just struck me like that. Fucking seems like snake oil, you know. Like, why is this media company selling like these random bottles of fucking apple cider vinegar? It feels like they someone has, like, is that an MLM, or I've never come across it myself. I just thought that just really struck me. I thought it was worth bringing up on the stream. Gotta love their stickers. What would Jesus watch? Not do, watch. I mean, I think what would Jesus do kind of catches on that and kind of carries that, so I think that's fine. 3 angels instead of Adidas. I mean, that's meh. This is their live show, so they do a live stream, a panel show. Light exposing darkness, Ephesians. I mean, cool. Sell stickers, go off. I mean, I'm not going to shit on them for that. But the piece de resistance, these are basically their YouTube videos. God, their site is slow. So the Black Panther deception is a YouTube video that we can now buy for $20 US. And the thing is, it is still a digital download. Like, maybe if you add to cart, you get the DVD cover and stuff. But I mean, if that's the case, why isn't the digital download cheaper? I mean, let's have a look. What's Vimeo? Of course, it's Vimeo. What is the Black Panther deception?
What does the Black Panther and the enemy of our souls, namely Lucifer, have in common? The number one question that needs to be answered is this: what do superheroes depend upon when battling against the forces of evil in their roles? When's the last time or the first time you see an animal speaking to a human being to eat something to receive power? You know very well what it is when the devil, when he possessed the serpent, spoke through the serpent and told Eve that if you eat of the fruit, you'll become like
God. Wearing clothes, that's not Eve.
Where is he getting his power from? Who is he getting his wisdom from? The goddess.
Special effects.
Bast. You know that's the devil. The Black Panther and Bast are connected together with the heart-shaped herb.
Clips, man.
The Black Panther is saying, honored fathers, mighty warriors, fearsome priests, Black Panthers all, in the name of Bast. Not in the name of Jesus, but in the name of...
I like how they present it, like, as if, like, yes, they were gonna put the name of Jesus, but they're like, nah. Their editing is fucking hilarious. Like, I love it. It is so, like, I'd love to do more on this channel, like react to more of their stuff, but like I'm clicking on my stream instead of clicking on the fucking actual website. The problem is it's a really long format, and like I think they just make the same argument. So like in there they're going, where do they get their power from? Oh, it's from Satan, because Satan gave Adam and Eve fruit, and that's where they got their power from, which, I mean, that already the comparison breaks down. And Black Panther was, you know, got the, I forget if it was an elixir or what it was that he drinks. And that's what gets him the power. And I mean, clearly Black Panther is focusing on, you know, African imagery and African beliefs to build up the superhero, because it's about Afrofuturism. Like, it's fine. But then to sort of go, it's not Jesus. His power's not coming from Jesus. What's up with that? It's just, like, ridiculous. But there's one on Disney. We won't spend too long on this because it's just more me being fucking amused at it. There it is in Spanish. Here we go, Magic Kingdom. Let's have a look at the trailer for Magic Kingdom. Wait, no. No, not add to cart. I clicked the wrong button. You gonna load or not? Yes, alright. I haven't seen this trailer. What does your heart follow? Oh, this one's on YouTube.
Cartoons. Are they simply stories, only meant for entertainment?
Yes, cartoons are stories meant for entertainment. They may have a moral component to teach us about some social value that the authors think is important, but yes, they are for entertainment.
Or are they complex tools used for seducing our characters?
Aladdin, first movie I saw at the cinema. This gave me complicated feelings as a young boy.
To a certain way of behaving.
What if you could escape to a faraway world without parents?
Forget them, Wendy. Forget them all. Come away to Neverland.
Without any rules. Without anyone telling you what to do.
All you have to do is leave home behind. But you can never come back.
They're taking so much out of context.
Never is an awfully long time.
I've been trying to obey someone else's rules about who I should be.
Your duty was to stay home, but your heart told you to break the rules. How did you decide between duty and heart?
By following my feelings, I wound up doing the right thing.
Bottoms up.
Tiny chin. Nice.
Now you.
What they need is Animaniacs. That's got some real raw shit in it.
All around you are spirits, child. If you listen, they will guide you.
All right. Wiki dead people. We've got work to do, so let's move with purpose. I've got an important announcement to make.
I got voodoo, I got hoodoo, I got things I ain't even tried.
So
and I got friends on the other side.
He's the bad guy anyway. Shouldn't you be in favor of them?
What messages are these occult-themed stories telling us about God?
Fantasia. That real deep kind of it.
All right, I'll be the one to say it. How do we know you're really Jesus? Can you perform miracles?
Sure. How about this?
I always wondered if there was a God, and now I know. There is. And it's me.
If there is a God, send another copy. I guess that's our answer.
Oh, wait, yeah, of course.
This always gives me the creeps. He's the president of Hollywood. He's supposed to give you the creeps. Greetings, your tinseliness, imperious leader of Hollywood.
What the fuck? Wall-E didn't do anything. Right, now I take issue with the fact that the entire branding of this is Disney, and it clearly isn't just Disney. And they missed out on like Rocko's Modern Life and Animaniacs and all sorts of other stuff that would have given them a lot more content for proving that, you know, some of these cartoons were not appropriate for kids. Look, that stuff's pretty funny. I do recommend checking out my clips from the live stream when I went over it. So far I've uploaded the first portion, which is just sort of generally going over anime culture and talking to a bunch of cosplayers at a convention they went to. And then the second part, which was a shorter section just on Sailor Moon. For some reason, Sailor Moon, the reach has been a lot lower. So the video has been shown to a lot fewer people than the first part. I'm not sure why that is. So we'll see. We'll put out the third part, which is Dragon Ball Z, where they talk about the trinity of Frieza, King Cool, and what's his brother's name? Cooler? King Cold and Cooler, yeah. The trinity of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, and they kind of mentioned Vegeta being part of a trinity, but I didn't get who the other two were. Like, I think they mentioned his dad, and that was about it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much time for the stream. So we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes or something. That's not too bad. That should go down pretty quickly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. Thanks, KCA. Thanks, Zara. Great to see you guys in chat. I'll try to be doing these regularly, whether it's weekly or fortnightly, I'm not sure yet. But again, like I say, I'm trying to record these so I can put out videos and find the right time slot and not bump my mic everywhere and stuff. So thank you. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good weekend. I think some of you probably have more weekend left than I do. I've got not much long, like I'm halfway through my day today. And then I'll go back to work tomorrow. But yeah, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and find me on Twitter, all that sort of cool stuff. And thanks for coming around. I have just this moment realizing I am not yet at the point where I know exactly what button I need to press to end a YouTube live stream. It's probably here. It's probably that button.